Okay, so we're continuing with the next part of the review. Following this, we have RuneCraft. RuneCraft, well, we'll start off with its legendary. First one, it's a 5 cost 4/5, so pretty fair stats. Wizardress of Oz. So the skill is Fanfare. Draw cards until there are 5 cards in your hand. Then change the cost of spells without spell rules in your hand to 1. So basically, it's a very strong effect. If your hand is empty, you continuously draw until you have a total of 5 cards. And then for spells without spell boost, all of their costs get changed to 1. She also has last words. At the start of your turn, banish all spells in your hand. So if she's destroyed on your enemy's turn, at the start of your turn, all your spells will be banished. If she's destroyed on your turn, at the start of your next turn, all spells in your hand will be banished. So the idea with her, I'm thinking, is you toss her down, you draw all the spells you need, and then you play all of them at once. So her last words won't have that much effect because all your spells are already gone in the first place. So it's definitely an interesting card, and well, I'm not so sure what deck this card will go into, but I can tell you which deck this card will not go into, and that deck is Dimension Shift. Simply because if you banish your Dimension Shift, you are dead. Excuse me. Also, it's her effect is kind of like Daria's. Basically, you draw 5 cards, except with Daria, she banishes everything else in your hand before that. Wizardress of Oz doesn't. And I'm thinking she might be able to fit into Earthright decks as well, since Earthright decks don't necessarily run a lot of spell boost cards. So I think she could fit well inside there. Furthermore, along these cards, you see a few more Earthright support cards. So I think she might find a place in Earthright. Other than that, I think it's possible she might be a new type of. She might start a new deck, like just based on neutral followers alone. Because if you draw 5 cards and all of them are neutral followers, you can just play them and without having the fear of getting them banished because they're not spells. So definitely an interesting card. We'll be experimenting with her if I get a few copies of her when the expansion comes out. Next, we have Abomination Awaken. So this one is no doubt a very, very interesting card. It's a 3 cost 6/6, so it's crazy overstated. With the skill, it can't attack, and if the number of cards in your hand increases to 9 during your turn, evolve this follower and deal 3 damage to all enemies, and in his evolved state, he can attack. Do note that when he evolves, he doesn't gain any stats. So, how this card works is you play it down, and it's 6/6 for 3 costs and 6/6 stats, and it doesn't attack. But if you somehow manage to draw until your hand has 9 cards, then you evolve it, you deal 3 damage, and then it can attack. So, first we'll talk about the condition. Basically, RuneCraft, if you have played like Dimension Shift, you know it's very easy to get your hand up to 9. You can go into Fate's Hand, into Insight. It's not hard for RuneCraft to raise their hand size very quickly. There are things like Magic Girl Melvi, which can draw up to 7 initially. So, a definitely very interesting and possible condition to fulfill. Whether it will be what our decks it will go into is another question, because I'm thinking it might find a way into a new kind of Dimension Shift. Basically, you play him, and then after that, since Dimension Shift already keeps a lot of cards in your hand, you can draw until 9, get him to fight for the board so you don't get completely outrushed, and then after that, continue with your spell boosting shenanigans. Whether he will start a new deck on his own, I don't think so, because as powerful as a 3 cost 6/6 will be, I don't think it's enough to warrant like a game finisher. So perhaps I think it's gotta be strong for early board presence, but in the late game you have to find another type of winning condition. So definitely something to keep in mind. But in my personal opinion, I think it might find its way into Dimension Shift, or maybe some other type of late game, sorry, not late game, mid game RuneCraft deck. So those are for the two legendaries. Moving on, we have a rather familiar card, Master Mage Levi. So basically this card is based off of Time Mage Levi with quite similar effects. So unevolved, he has Fanfare, deal 3 damage. Okay, before that, we'll check his stats out. He's a 6 cost 4/4, so slightly understated by about 1/1 to 2/2 worth of stats. But his Fanfare and his effects are quite strong. He has Fanfare, deal 3 damage to an enemy, so it's reminiscent of his Crimson Sorcery when from Time Mage Levi. And Earthright, deal 3 damage to all enemies instead. So definitely some Earthright support here. Definitely a very strong card. His Fanfare alone, I think, warrants play. His Earthright is just an added bonus to just clear the board a lot of the times. You play him, he blasts your entire enemy's board, and he's a 6 cost 4/4, which is on the empty board pretty strong. So I definitely think he'll find his way into probably Earthright decks, because normal decks, yes, even though his Fanfare is already quite strong, I think the added bonus of Earthright will really make him the crucial card. So probably run him in Earthright decks at 2 to 3 copies. Following that, we have Falis, Leonardian Mage. She's a 5 cost 3/6, so 4/5, about quite fair stats. Her skill, Fanfare, deal X damage to an enemy follower. X equals the number of neutral cards in your hand. And then in Enhance 7, then evolve this follower. And then in her evolved state, she has Storm. So definitely a very, very crazy card. And I think it is very good, because not only can we use it for finishers, it can also be used just in general for the fighting for the board. So first, you already have fair stats around 3/6, which is equivalent to around 4/5, so pretty good. And then after that, you have deal X damage to an enemy follower, X equals number of neutral cards in your hand. Assuming you have, say, 3 neutral cards in your hand, you can deal 3 damage to something. That's equivalent to Levi's skill. Then Enhance 7, evolve this follower. So you evolve it, she goes up by +1/+1 stats, and she has Rush, but not Rush, she has even better, Storm. So if you want to, you can not only use her as like a finisher, you take care of a ward, and then you evolve her, and she has Storm, she attacks the enemy face, or you can use her to control the board. You deal X damage to something, and then after that, you can evolve her to attack into another thing. Definitely very strong. And her Enhance isn't even that expensive, it's just 2 more play points than her original cost. Basically, you're having a Evolve Orb for 2 play points, which is not bad once again. So definitely a very great card. I'm thinking it'll probably go in the same deck as Abomination Awakened. Excuse me, because both of those decks can. She requires a high number of neutral followers in your hand, and he requires a high number of cards in your hand. So they have some kind of synergy. So I think both of them could go in a deck together. So next we have Golem Assault. It's a 2 cost spell. Put a Conjure Guardian into your hand. And then Enhance 6, put 2 more into your hand. Additionally, it has Earthright, subtract 1 from the cost of all Conjure Guardians in your hand. So, yeah, quite a mouthful to digest. Basically, we'll take a look at the first skill alone first. First, put a Conjure Guardian in your hand. In case you don't know, a Conjure Guardian is a 2 cost spell that summons a 3/3 ward. And Enhance 6, put 2 more into your hand. So basically you have 3 Conjure Guardians in total. In addition, if you have an Earthright, subtract 1 from the cost of all Conjure Guardians in your hand. So instead of 2 costs, it will become 1 cost, which is even better. So definitely very, very strong. Why do I say that? Simply because if you think about it, Enhance is going to be used late game, so it can use okay, before that, this will definitely go in the Earthright deck because of its Earthright effects, and Conjure Guardian are kind of like the signature of Earthrights. Its Enhanced 6 effect is strong because in late game, it will bring you a lot of resources, so it can sustain till late game. Its Earthright effect is very good for early game. Why? Imagine a 1 cost summon a 3/3 with Ward. 1 cost summon a 3/3 with Ward is insane. And then furthermore, it already puts a Conjure Guardian into your hand. So definitely a card with a lot of potential and very, very strong. I think it's a great addition for the Earthright deck. Yeah, would definitely run it at 2 to 3 copies in Earthright decks. I'm quite happy to see the Earthright getting quite a bit of support during this expansion. It's nice. So following that, we have a 5 cost 4/4 Illusionist. Slightly understated, but it should be okay. Fanfare. Randomly summon one of the highest cost followers that has been destroyed this match and give it Rush. Then banish it at the start of your next turn. So this is kind of interesting. The way it's worded is banish it at the start of your next turn. So if it does anything during your opponent's turn, whatever effect it will do will still take place. Furthermore, if it's a ward, it lasts until your opponent's next. It lasts through your opponent's turn. So, say you summon Illusionist. Illusionist brings back what's a big ward? I don't know. It brings back Goblin Mount Demon for some reason. Then Goblin Mount Demon will last through your opponent's turn until your next turn. So it can be a defensive play. It also can be a very offensive play. Say you summon something with something like Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, although you give it Rush, Gilgamesh base skill already has Storm, so you can use it to just attack face. So definitely a very interesting and strong card. Not sure whether what deck to really put it in, because I don't see any specific combos with it. Can be just a general card to tech into your deck in case you have some synergy with some other cards. Yeah, personally I feel this skill is much more fit for like a Shadowcraft deck, because if you think about it, Shadowcraft is the one that is known for reviving their destroyed followers and whatnot, but I can see RuneCraft having some fun with this card, so definitely an interesting card. Not sure what deck to put it in, but of course it's gonna be quite fun to experiment with it when it comes out. So that's Illusionist. Following that, we have Mysteria Grimoire. It's a 3 cost 2, 1/2, pardon, and slightly understated, but his skill is Fanfare, draw 2 cards. At the end of your turn, discard all spells in your hand. So, quite interesting, kind of. Basically, it's a trade-off. You draw 2 cards, so if those 2 cards are both followers, then you basically got a 2 free draw because you don't discard anything. If those 2 cards are spells, if you don't use them, you discard them at the end of the turn. So I can see a trend between these cards: Mysterian Grimoire, Wizardess of Odd, and Felice. Basically, they all require you to draw cards, and then you, at the end of the turn or at the start of the turn, whatever, you discard them. Discard the spells, not the cards. So this deck, this new RuneCraft deck, ironically, will probably run very little spells, but mostly followers. So when you draw the cards, you draw them for free, and you don't actually discard anything. So probably like 80% followers, 20% spells. So you draw a lot of cards. You can even combo this with Abomination, because since you're drawing so many cards and you don't discard anything. So definitely quite an interesting card. It probably won't fit into any of the old decks, because if you think about it, RuneCraft, its current decks are Earthright, which has a good amount of spells, Dimension Shift, which has a crazy amount of spells, and Daria, which, okay, Daria probably has the least amount of spells, which means this card, but still, this card won't fit very well into Daria, because the spells in Daria are quite crucial for spell boosting. So probably we'll start this will probably fit into a new deck of its own, probably the neutral RuneCraft deck. But would I play it in that deck? Definitely. Fanfare, draw 2 cards. This tells you fanfare, draw 2 cards. If you ignore the rest of this, fanfare, draw 2 cards is crazy. This one is a trade-off only if you run a lot of spells. If you don't, you're basically getting 2 free draws. So definitely a very strong card. Following that, we have a 3-cost Earth Sigil, Gingerbread House. Fanfare, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower, restore 2 damage, 2 defense to your leader. Yeah, it's just good. I would play this over Price of Magic simply because it heals the leader. Price, it's like Red Hot Ritual, except for 1 more cost, and it heals your leader slightly. So just a generic all-round good Earth Sigil to put down and play around with. It's just good. It can become a staple for the Earthright deck, definitely, because you heal and you deal damage. It helps early game survivability. So definitely good for the Earthright deck. Next we have Apprentice Source Mage, a 4-cost 3/4, so pretty okay. Fanfare, gain +1/+1 if the number of neutral cards in your hand equals or exceeds the number of RuneCraft cards in your hand. So if you have equal or more neutral cards, then compared to your RuneCraft cards, he gains additional 1/1 stats. He's okay, I guess, but I think there are better things to play. In the 4-cost slot, he can be okay, because if you want to have like a stronger follow on turn 4, like a 4/5 follow on turn 4, you can play him. But I think there are better options than him. So he's okay, but I would probably play something else, because all he gets is like a stat bonus. Following that, we have Witch of Sweets, is a 2-cost 2/2, standard. Fanfare, draw a card if the number of neutral cards in your hand equals or exceeds the number of RuneCraft cards in your hand, excluding this card. So basically, she draws you an additional 1 if you have more neutral cards than RuneCraft cards. Once again, goes quite well, synergizes quite well with the Abomination Awakened, Wizardess of Oz, and Mysteria and Grimoire deck. Because if you have a lot of neutral followers, then no problem. Yeah, generally I would probably put it inside the neutral RuneCraft deck. Just a staple good 2/2. Lastly, in this list we have Carbuncle of Mysteria, I believe that's how you pronounce it. 2-cost 2/1 with Last Words, spell boost the cards in your hand. So I can see it being played only in the Dimension Shift deck, because if you think about it, in the new deck, the neutral RuneCraft one, there probably you won't need that much spell boost. You can play it in, what's that called, Daria, but Daria has enough spell boost already. You can play it in Dimension Shift, and it will work pretty well. It also helps Dimension Shift because Dimension Shift lacks followers to play, because they're so focused on spell boosting. So this is a follower that both fights for the board and spell boost, which is a plus for them. But it can slow down the deck, because I know Dimension Shift would rather play spells that they can combo rather than play a follower. But I can see it being played in Dimension Shift. Definitely not Earthright, because Earthright doesn't need spell boost. So, yeah, it's an okay follower, but I don't think you see that much play. So that's it for this list. We'll be moving on to the other Okay, so here we have only 2 more cards we need to cover. We'll start off with Witch's Cauldron. Basically, it's an Earth Sigil, 1 cost. Last word to draw a card. So when you play it, it doesn't do anything. So that's fine, I guess. But when it's destroyed, you draw an additional card. Could be a staple for Earthright. It will probably be this or Scrap Iron Smelter, because both I feel are very good cards, just that this Scrap Iron Smelter gives more defensive play because it summons the Scrap Golem, while this one gives more options because it draws a card for you. So both are extremely good cards, and it's really based on personal preference which one you want to play. I don't think you play both because I think that's a little bit too much 1-drops. But other than that, I think both options are extremely good. It just depends which one you like better. So that will be it for this card. Quite simple actually. Halen. So the last card is Mr. Henlin, Shadow Mage. He has the skill. Well, he's a 6 cost 5/6, so pretty fast stats with Ward. And Fanfare. If the cards in your hand that have been, if there are cards in your hand that have been spell boosted fewer than 5 times, spell boost those cards until they have been spell boosted a total of 5 times. So I'm thinking, okay, what I think this is supposed to be is for something like Daria, but I don't think anyone will play in Daria. Simply because if you have a bunch of cards in your hand and that haven't been drawn by Daria and you have no more options of spell boosting, you can still use this card to spell boost it 5 times. Unfortunately, Daria already does that, so actually this kind of interferes with Daria. Other than that, it definitely won't go in Dimension Shift. I think it's a little bit too slow. It won't go in Earthright because Earthright doesn't need spell boost. So yeah, it's kind of a hard card to judge where to put it, which deck to put it in. I'm thinking he'll be much more useful in, say, Take 2, because in Take 2, if you choose RuneCraft, even if you choose RuneCraft, you won't have like a crazy amount of spell boost, so he can help you spell boost quite a bit. If you are doing Take 2 in Constructed, I don't think he'll see that much play. Well, that's my personal opinion. So I think that will be it for RuneCraft. Thank you guys for watching. Next time I should be covering Dragoncraft. So look forward to the next video.